IFRS S2 looks at climate-related disclosures. And like S1, it covers 4 major areas. Now, because it's a specific standard looking at climate, it actually has a lot more detail on each of those 4 areas. So the first one is governance, and that's maybe a little bit more generic, but it tells companies what to disclose in terms of who's responsible for looking at the climate-related risks and opportunities faced by the business. Strategy is also a little bit more generic and looking at what's the company's overall strategy to deal with the climate challenges. And it does say in S2 that if those are repeats of really what's in S1, companies can kind of just link back to S1 and not repeat themselves. Where it gets a little bit more interesting is where it looks at the risk management and the metrics and targets. So if we think about metrics and targets particularly, that will be a really detailed area in most companies' accounts. They'll look at the climate-related risks and think of what are the industry-based metrics that are being used, what are the company's own metrics that are being used, and what's really cross-industry that's being used. And companies will have to disclose things like scope 1 to 3 greenhouse gas emissions. That could be quite challenging on things like scope 3, where the information might be quite difficult to find, and you're looking quite far up and quite far down the value chain to actually see how do I work out the total emissions on what my company produces and sells. But it's those metrics and targets that's really going to stand out S2 climate to try and make companies more comparable. And in doing so, the IFRS has provided a list of guidance of what they think recommended metrics are for specific industries. So if you're an automobile manufacturer, you might be looking at the number of cars that are electric. You might be looking at the number of renewable fabrics sold if you're a fashion retailer. So there is a big set of guidance for those industries, and companies will really have to decide if they're not really showing those metrics, they're probably going to have to disclose why they feel that's not relevant.